Am I covered if I loan my motorcycle to one of my friends for a quick ride and they have a crash? Plus one shout out. Let's talk about that. Let's get cracking. Good moto morning. Welcome to another episode of Kraken's Garage. Beautiful people. Today on Kraken's Garage, we're going to discuss, in the last month or so, I have loaned my Icon Revival to Thomas of Purple on 3 and PSP Tommy G to try out for about a 60-mile run, and also to Pete, husband of Artist on a Harley. And you have to think about these things and your liability, and are you covered, or are you covered under his insurance? Do they have a motorcycle endorsement? We're going to kick around all those ideas so you kind of get a full grip of what you're getting into in the event something bad happens. And it does happen, especially when somebody puts their leg over a brand new motorcycle that they have never ridden before, that has completely different weight distribution and characteristics compared to what they're used to riding. So let's get cracking. The short answer to this question is your motorcycle insurance policy may help for repairs, medical expenses, or other property damage if you loan your bike to a friend and they wreck it. What's covered depends on the type of coverage you have on your policy, and if your friend has a motorcycle insurance as well, their policy may be help to cover costs resulting from the crash as well. Now, whenever I loan my motorcycle to anybody, several things are happening here. I've been doing this a long time, and knock on wood, I have no mishaps, but you have to first make sure they have a motorcycle endorsement on their driver's license. I have talked to Thomas and Pete enough to where I have complete confidence in these individuals. The second thing I'm measuring is their ability to handle a motorcycle. Are they hopping off a very small Grom or something like that and getting on my full dresser Harley for the very first time? I'm not going to loan them my motorcycle. That's not going to happen. It's too big a transition. I'm not willing to risk my bike under those circumstances. So you have to individually measure every single one of these situations. It becomes more of a gray area too with Pete, who's out of country riding from Canada, and he borrows my bike and has an accident in the United States. You have a whole different can of worms there. My basic advice to everyone here who's watching this video is do not count on the other individual's insurance to cover anything. First of all, you have to determine what type of insurance you have. A lot of motorcyclists just carry the absolute bare minimum, which is liability only. So if they wreck their bike, whatever damages to their bike or medical bills are on the rider. The only thing they're going to cover is if you damage somebody else's property or cause personal injury up to a certain dollar amount that you purchase with your insurance policy. Now, my insurance is very cheap here in Virginia. I'll give you an example. I have a $100 deductible. I have $300, $100, and $300 regarding the coverage, full coverage on my bikes. I just added the BMW, and that bike cost me about $127 a year to add to my policy. That's very cheap to put a $20,000 bike on your policy with full coverage and a $100 deductible. Why is it so cheap? Because I'm much older, I have a clean driving record, and I've worked hard to earn that status. Heavens knows when I was young, I paid up to $2,000 a year for a bike that cost $4,000 brand new. You have to understand your liability and how that's going to go down. Motorcycle coverage after a wreck. Motorcycle owners in most states are required to have liability coverage. That's the absolute bare minimum. If your friend injures another person or damages somebody else's property while driving your bike, your liability coverage may help pay for the related expenses. Your liability coverage won't pay for your friend's medical bills if he's at fault for the crash. Medical payments coverage may help cover your friend's medical bills if they're injured in a wreck while you're riding your bike. Medical payments is an optional coverage, and that's an option that I have never ever once taken on my motorcycle policy. It's quite expensive, and I already pay for decent medical insurance through work or whatever you have for your personal well-being and health through your job or within your family structure. Now, collision coverage may help pay for the repair of your bike if your friend wrecks it. Collision coverage is optional unless you're leasing or financing the bike. That's a valid point. Now, if you're leasing or you have a lien on your motorcycle, you must carry full coverage insurance. at least in North America, because the lien holder or the bank that loaned you the money to buy the bike wants their money back if you total the bike. They require it by law to have full coverage insurance. Each coverage on your motorcycle policy has its own coverage limit, and that you negotiate based between you and your agent when you set up the policy. And they can guide you through what they feel is appropriate. Some insurance agents will try to upsell you, but most are very genuine and say, it's very rare that a motorcycle would cause this much damage. I would cap it off right around, 100,000 or 150 or something like that. There's no need to pay for 300,000 because it's very difficult for a motorcycle to cause that much damage. Even when your motorcycle insurance policy covers other riders, you might discover that there are some added considerations. For instance, what if the accident resulted in damage that exceeds your coverage limits? In that case, I hope to heavens that the individual who's riding has their own motorcycle insurance policy to help kick in, and between the two of them, hopefully you can wipe the slate clean of whatever went down. If your friend had their own insurance, it may kick in as a secondary policy to help close the gap. You have to compare the two policies to know for sure. Insurance companies typically have language that explains how they will provide coverage when there are multiple policies and policyholders involved in an accident. They may indicate whether it should serve as a primary insurance on a claim or whether it should simply come in as a secondary policy. Now, to be clear here, whenever I've loaned somebody my bike for a quick demo ride, I have never once said, give me your insurance policy and I'm going to sit here and compare the two and see where the differences are or where the gap in liability is. So I'm just letting you know what you should do. What I will say, though, is that language that the insurance policies use in the coverage will control who's first in line and who's second. But remember, some insurers may not cover physical damage to borrowed, non-owned motorcycles. Even if a friend has a motorcycle policy, it might not provide any coverage for your bike. It's a good idea to read your own motorcycle insurance policy and check with your insurance provider so you understand the coverage you have before you loan your bike to another rider. I have done this, so let's say Mike Will Bike rides down here from Boston and we go for a ride and it's like, yo, here's the keys, try the Icon Revival, let me know what you think. And something bad happens. I know my motorcycle insurance policy is going to cover the accident and the damages, or if it's totaled or whatever the case may be. Now, it is not going to cover the medical, so I'm relying on the individual to take care of their own medical bills in that instance. I have done this research, I have done my due diligence, so it is very little risk to me. And some people get very emotional about their bikes, like, this is the second coming here that I have parked in my garage. I don't, it's a piece of metal. If the house burned down to ground, give me my insurance check and I'm going shopping. I'll go get something else. I don't worry about that stuff. But what you do have to pay attention when you're reviewing your motorcycle policy is the verbiage they're tossing around. May, if, maybe, all of these terminologies are loopholes to get off the hook and not pay. And that requires a very direct conversation with your insurance policy holder and your agent and to sort that out so you have that discussion before something bad happens. Accidents do happen, folks. Another thing to consider is, especially on the Harley riders out there, or heck, even the BMW, custom equipment you've installed in your bike typically isn't covered by your friend's insurance or your insurance for that matter, unless you paid for the extra bump and say, hey, I just dropped $3,000 in parts for a top case and yada yada on my Harley, and you need to call your insurance agent and $5-10 more a year, they will cover those custom parts that were added to your bike. If you haven't done that, you should. You're gonna get the short end of the stick if something bad happens. One thing I can promise you though is, let's say my friend rides my bike and an accident happens and their insurance covers the accident or parts of the accident, they are gonna pay $0 towards your custom parts on your bike. They're looking to get out of there as cheap as possible, and they're gonna hit you with a lowball offer on a devalued price of your bike to try and get out from underneath the liability issue. Just sign this document that lets us off the hook and I'll write you a check. That's normally how it goes down. So what are some custom things that would not be covered? Custom paint, custom chrome, sound systems, roll bars, aftermarket windshields, your helmet, your jacket, your gear, your saddlebags that you added, things of that nature. Divided costs. Of course, you may find that both policies are making the same assertion that they're both indicating that they should come in as the primary insurance on the claim, or likewise. In that case, the cost of the accidents are typically divided with both policies contributing. So they pretty much split it down the middle 50-50 when there's an argument over it, in layman's terms. And if there is no other policy available to make up that gap, for example, if your friend does not have a motorcycle insurance, or your friend has a policy that does not cover borrowed vehicles, well, you may find yourself in a situation where you're personally responsible for the rest of the costs. Now, let me exaggerate on that very perspective. Let's say I loan somebody my Roadster and off they go, and they slide right into a $300,000 Lamborghini and damage the whole side of the car. It's not hard for that bike to cost $100,000 to fix. It's a handmade Italian car. God forbid if you have a personal injury, loaning the bike and they slide in and take out grandma walking the dog down the street. It's going to go to the next level in a hurry. So you can exceed your policy amounts. Profiteering society that we live in, where people try to make a buck rather than just do the right thing and take care of the issue and move forward, it has become an income opportunity in this country on many occasions. So in conclusion, that's why you should think long and hard before you ever let somebody use your motorcycle. If you have any questions about what you should be covered on your motorcycle insurance, talk to your insurance provider. If you're going to loan your bike to one of your friends, please verify that they do have an M endorsement or motorcycle endorsement on their driver's license. If you haven't done your due diligence and they do not have one on their license, you are liable. So a good rule of thumb, what's Kraken's view on this entire topic? A good rule of thumb is don't count on anybody else's insurance. It's your insurance and your responsibility when you loan that bike, and that goes for the deductibles involved. Now, if your friend is cool, I would hope they would at least just pay the deductible as a friend, as a token of friendship. I filmed this video on a motovlog, and my GoPro didn't record the audio. Get! So that was a bit of thumbs down, so I'm just shooting it in the garage because it's raining today. So you know what time it is. It's time for our shout out, and thank you to all of you that hang around to the end as we tried to build a moto community. Now this one's unbelievable. What if I told you about an Australian motovlogger that started his channel on May 7th of 2022, that's a little over a month ago. He has 2,710 subs and one video out, and there's no narrative on his video. This gentleman needs no introduction. His name is Rob Hamilton, and he started a YouTube channel. He has his regular YouTube channel, much like mine, where he discusses gear, bikes, camping, whatever he's into. On this video, he posted a camping solo in the wilderness, and it has 174,000 views, and it's ASMR. And to those people that don't know what I'm talking about, there's no narrative. It's an acronym which means an autonomous sensory meridian response. So it's supposed to be relaxing, sedative sensation of just being one, and all you hear is the nature sounds that he's experiencing while he's on his camping trip on his motorcycle. And he does a cracker of a job on it. It's unbelievable. His motto reads, "Just you, me, and the sounds of nature." He hails from Melbourne, Australia. He's rocking a Triumph Scrambler, and his main channel is called Moto Feels. He's on Instagram under moto_feels. I'll have them linked down below. His true love is photography, and one day he was taking still pictures, and he looked at his camera and he said, "You know what? I have a video option on this camera as well." And boom, he started a YouTube channel. He has 32,300 subs with 120 videos out on his main channel. I'll have them both linked down below, but you need to check out his new one, which is just simply, his channel is Rob Hamilton. If you want to get to know Rob Hamilton, Throttle Down Under, Rob had done an interview with this gentleman, and it's just a cracker of an interview to understand this individual and who he is and where he comes from and what his passion is in life. I will have that link down below as well. You might want to check that one out as well. So if you go over and check out his new channel and you decide to subscribe, give him a like, a thumbs up. Please let him know that Kraken sent you, and I hope you enjoy his channel very much. And there's my Ghost Dog Bourbon. He's here to remind me to wrap things up. If you would like to become a Patreon, the link is listed right down below. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. If you want to see more in the future, hit that subscribe button right down there in the corner. And remember, folks, go run. It's good for you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.